The Western paradox. When morality is just a selective outfit after the heartbreaking tragedy at Bondi Beach. Australia, in mid-December 2025, people are pointing massive fingers at the government. But let's be clear, this isn't about gun control. Australia actually handles that pretty well. The real question Aussies are asking is, have they been giving their kindness to the wrong people while being shamefully harsh on those who actually follow the law? This is the moment where a whole set of values, heavily influencing Australia, is being flipped upside down. And that's when we truly see it. Inside the cozy Western bed, there are quite a few bed bugs and fleas. I won't keep you waiting any longer. Let's dive into the analysis. The year 2022 marked the moment humanity took a step out of the COVID-19 pandemic. That was also when the safety and value of the vaccines were being heavily questioned. Because of that, the choice to jab or not was usually a personal one, especially in Western countries. Yet at that time, Australia was being extremely strict. If you wanted to enter, you had to be vaccinated, or you were kicked out, no exceptions. This led to a major issue during the first Grand Slam of the year, the Australian Open. That's the story of tennis superstar Novak Djokovic refusing the vaccine. Technically, he should have been allowed to play as usual, but he needed a special medical exemption and had to be isolated for a certain period. Just when everything seemed settled, it turned out he didn't even know he had to isolate. Djokovic and his team arrived in Australia very early, 2 weeks before the start. But after checking his papers, Australian Border Force held him at the airport for 8 hours, grilling him with all sorts of questions. Claimed the Serbian player didn't meet the requirements because he lacked the proof that he was healthy. Even Prime Minister Scott Morrison stepped up to support this action. Just like that, Djokovic's visa was cancelled. The Serbian star was ordered to leave the land down under immediately. Listen, this was a textbook case of making an example out of someone. The Australian government used one of the most famous global icons to flex their legal authority. Here's a world-class athlete with a clear medical history, arriving for a short stay under strict isolation. He had zero intention of staying permanently or becoming a burden on society, yet he was blocked over a vaccine despite the policy having countless exceptions. From flight crews and essential workers to other flexible cases, the official reason was protecting public health. But the way it was handled felt more like punishment, a political performance, rather than a medical necessity. While this was happening, the Australian government was struggling and helpless against the wave of illegal immigration. Boats crossing the sea were welcomed with humanitarian language, emotions, and slogans like "No human is illegal." The result? A string of tragedies, from detention centers to the heartbreaking events in daily life. Bondi Beach stands as a tragic testament right before our eyes. Reality check. Australia is split. On one side, law-abiding, tax-paying citizens feel insulted. They're asking, why is every breath I take and every needle I refuse monitored? While undocumented boats carrying unknown risks are welcomed with poetic speeches. The paradox is that with Djokovic, the state acted like a cold, heartless machine. Every stamp, every clause, and every legal sentence was put under a microscope. But for illegal entry, the law suddenly becomes soft clay, molded by media pressure, public emotion, and the fear of being labeled inhumane. The West has long viewed itself as the moral center of the modern world. They preach freedom, human rights, equality, the rule of law, and global responsibility. These concepts are repeated like mantras in speeches, resolutions, and international headlines. But the more you watch how they actually behave, you realize an undeniable paradox. The places that lecture the most about morality are the ones applying it most selectively. From a distance, it looks like a moral mist, but up close, it's just bitter dust. Let's look at the US, France, Germany, and Australia to see how principles are bent by politics and media fear. In the US, where personal freedom is treated like a religion, the country is a constitutional paradise on paper. In reality, those rights depend on the whims of the ruling party. During the pandemic, millions were forced to jab just to keep their jobs, even if they worked remotely. Soldiers were discharged for refusing. Meanwhile, the southern border with Mexico was left wide open for a long time. People crossed illegally in droves, often without health checks, and were released with vague court dates. It's a total circus. For legal citizens, the state can control you down to the needle. But for illegal entry, the state becomes hesitant. To put it bluntly, it's a lack of competence. The 2020 riot saw thousands of shops destroyed and billions in damages. Yet the reason behind it was a joke. George Floyd, a longtime addict who resisted arrest, was turned into a hero so some could satisfy a craving for looting. Many prosecutors even refused to charge people or release them early to avoid social tension. But when people marched to mourn the horrific murder of activist Charlie Koo, they were slammed for pressuring vulnerable communities. It's like legal citizens aren't even allowed to breathe anymore without offending the human rights crowd. Reality check. Americans are facing extreme polarization. When law is applied based on political color rather than the text of the law, trust in the justice system shatters, leading to waves of people fleeing unsafe cities. In France, the home of liberty, equality, fraternity, the double standard is a massive crack in the republic. The state is notoriously harsh with its own people. Just look at how they treat protesters with batons and tear gas. The Yellow Vests experience that firsthand. But when riots break out in the suburbs involving immigrants, the government hesitates. They call it a social crisis or an integration crisis, as if the law needs a new translation for the context. Secularism is also a mess. They ban religious symbols in schools for neutrality, but walk on eggshells regarding other religious demands, like halal menus or prayer spaces. A schoolgirl with a small cross gets a lecture. While bigger issues are negotiated away, equality here isn't one rule for all. It's about not offending the loudest and angriest groups. Reality check. The French middle class is bitter. They feel they are the only ones the law actually targets, while real instability is excused with fancy words. Germany, the heart of Europe's economy, has an even more subtle double standard. After the 2015 crisis, they opened the doors for millions under the banner of humanity. But the burden fell on local citizens and local governments. When crimes involve immigrants, the media uses very careful language to avoid inciting hatred. Meanwhile, anyone criticizing these policies is monitored or labeled as extremist by security services. Even in energy, citizens are told to pay sky-high prices for the climate, while strategic blunders like closing nuclear plants are ignored. The people pay the bills, while Berlin gives polished speeches. Finally, back to Australia. They have one of the harshest systems for those who come legally. Even a global star like Djokovic gets kicked out coldly. But for boat arrivals and illegal entry, the story is totally different. The policy swings between tough and humanitarian, creating a messy middle ground. The result is unstable detention centers and social tragedies that eventually shock the public. The common thread between these four nations isn't a lack of laws, but that the law is no longer a shared yardstick. It's become a stretchy stick, used harder or softer depending on political risk and media trends. When double standards become the norm, people stop asking if a policy is right. They ask, does this law apply to me, or just to them? This is the product of a political system where the image of morality is more important than the consequences. It's where emotion beats governance and universal values become tools for power. The West hasn't abandoned morality. They've kept it as decorative language, a fancy coat they wear when it suits them and take off when it gets in the way. This hypocrisy is most visible in how they treat the rule of law. On paper, it applies to everyone equally. In practice, if you aren't politically useful, the law is heartless. But if you are a humanitarian symbol, the law suddenly becomes flexible and poetic. It's reached a point where it's almost public. International law is preached constantly but applied selectively. Rivals' military action is slammed and punished immediately. But the same action from an ally, is that humanitarian intervention or protecting democracy? When the US hit Iraq, it was the hammer of justice. But when Russia defends its border from the knife at its throat in Ukraine, it's a modern-day czar. Principles don't change only, the targets do. Global morality is no longer a standard. It's a tool to tell friend from foe. The biggest danger isn't a bad image. It's the long-term death of public trust. When people see the law and morality don't apply equally, they stop debating right and wrong and start calculating their own gain. The West has the laws, but they lack the guts to apply them consistently, especially when it's not politically convenient. When morality is just for decoration, it becomes completely hollow.